Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, Greg Anthony here, and glad you're coming back to the Investigative Journal on this February 21st, 2017 day on our calendar, and I'm going to head right off to Rome, Italy, and I have Leo Zagami on the phone. Leo and I have been talking for well over a decade regarding the Vatican intersection with Freemasonry, their influence in American politics, and much, much more. And I wanted to get right to Leo because there's a huge clash in America now with Trump's immigration policies. He wants to crack down on illegal immigration, and he often cites the problems going on in Europe, and Leo knows them well. We've talked about them, and we're going to start there. Leo was just in Berlin, and Leo, I know you want to talk about the experience you had there, and really what's going on with illegal immigration. I believe it's destroying Europe. What's your thoughts?
Well, I went to Berlin on a fun occasion because after 20 years they invited me to, I was a very popular DJ, record producer in Berlin back in the days, and they wanted me to go to play in one of the main clubs in Berlin. During the night, my wife, there was a guy who was there in the arriving in the DJ booth, this guy, and when my wife said she was American, the guy literally spitted on the floor and said he was Moroccan and that he hated America. I mean, I think that, and he shouted death to America. I mean, I think that we are really reaching a level of tolerance in these countries that is out of order. I mean, I remember Berlin 20 years ago, and I noticed the difference. For example, in the area that used to be Turkish area, used to be maybe one or two shops from Turkish owners, and that was it. It was just a very gray area with nothing in. Now it's like literally going into, I don't know, a street in Istanbul or Lebanon or in any country, Middle Eastern country you can imagine, with a bunch of shops, of restaurants and of activities with the most amazing names. There was even an Al-Aqsa Cafe, or I don't know what. I mean, there was anything possible. It was just like a whole area of Berlin has been given to the Muslim immigrants, and it's a little bit like they have a free zone where they can do really whatever they want. But the interesting thing is that, I mean, they even have the courage to spit on the floor and say, they hate America. When America, let's remember, was the one that with Russia sacrificed their own soldiers to free Germany from Nazism. So it's really, I think, a critical moment in history, this, where we have to probably step down from that liberal policy that with Angela Merkel has let in all these immigrants and give them these areas to really be able to do what they want and try to tell the world that this is not possible. If they come to Europe, they have to become integrated with the Western world. They can't just create their own Islamic free, Sharia areas, because that's another thing that was pretty shocking when I was in Germany, and this is something that came up also in the news lately. What happened is that in some areas where they have this high density of Muslim population, for a certain period of time, they went around with the Sharia police, wearing basically the Sharia police was wearing these kind of orange, those kind of things you wear, like police will wear in the streets to get recognized if they are at night. You have those, how you call them? These,
I think it's like fluorescent jackets that shine in the dark, right?
These kinds of vest they put on top of their clothes to get recognized, and there was actually written Sharia police. And this happened in a city in Renania, and basically it happened in Germany, and they even went around saying to women, cover yourself, put the veil on. I mean, and this was done in Germany.
Oh,
I mean, it's pretty incredible. I think it's shocking.
Well,
and then they go around saying things like, woman, you have to be devoted, you have to walk 3 steps behind your husband, and you don't have to insult the Allah, because that's the way, that's what you're doing. And then they go around saying, hey, remember that Islam is your faith and your identity, so don't drink any more beer. This is the drink of the infidels. This is what the Sharia police went around saying in Germany.
Now, don't the German police enter those areas, or are they staying away from those areas?
That's another thing I notice. The real problem seems to be the lack of policing of these areas. And also the lack of policing, generally speaking. I mean, you remember, I'm sure, even back in the days, the amount of police and of military around the American embassy in Via Veneto. You remember?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Well, imagine that in front of the famous Brandenburg Gate, where there is the American embassy, there is only 2 policemen. 2. And they don't even have a machine gun.
Wow.
They have a little pistol, and that's it. And they are not covered by, in Rome, you have both the military, then you have the police, and on top of that you have a private security firm presiding at the gates of the embassy doing the screening. And this, instead in Germany, there is no police. I mean, I have calculated that right in the center of Berlin, at the Brandenburg Gate, I saw a total of probably 7 or 8 policemen in the whole area. And that is nothing, especially after the terrorist attack that we saw in Berlin in December.
Now, did you talk to some people there that said there's areas of Berlin they don't want to go into anymore?
Well, absolutely. There is areas of Berlin that are starting to become increasingly dangerous, and actually I did a gig for some guys who are quite, very open. Also, there is people that come from the gay world in the club. They are welcome there and everything. Now, these people start to become threatened by the vicinity of this Islamic area, because the Islamic area is not far from even where I played. It's probably 1 kilometer down the road. So you can imagine...
No, go ahead.
This is East Berlin. As I said, when I visited this area many years ago, it was completely different. The Turkish immigrants were completely integrated. They didn't pose any kind of threat, and they were really minding their own business. This doesn't seem the case now that you have all the Syrian immigrants, all the other immigrants. Another thing that I noticed, which might seem incredible for your listeners, is that from the moment I arrived in Berlin and I stayed there overall 3 days, I didn't see one black person.
Wow.
The immigration that it comes to Italy, it's prevalently from Africa, a lot of them. When instead, all the immigrants that are present in Berlin are from Arab countries.
Interesting.
And there is no black people, which is very odd. I noticed also an increase, if I have to tell you also the truth, of the presence of Nazis. There is a lot of Nazis. I don't say that this is a natural reaction to what is happening. It's basically a bit like each urban tribe is kind of asserting itself in its territories. Okay, but it's become more of a war of gangs where the police doesn't really have any presence. I didn't see one police car in East Berlin. The only police I saw was in the center of town, which is basically already West Berlin. Wow. East Berlin, there was no police. And that means, that is where the Islamic people are, in East Berlin. That's where they have placed most of the Islamic community.
Well, they've let millions in. How has Merkel justified this? And do you think she will win election? And that's coming up shortly. What will happen with her?
Well, I mean, it was the first time that talking also with people who up until yesterday were basically on Obama or Hillary's side, because, that was the liberal mentality even for the club scene. And for the first time I started to see this kind of people questioning this kind of mad immigration policy that is going on in Berlin. Because these people, for example, from the gay scene, they told me, Leo, we don't feel safe anymore in these areas anymore because there's too many Muslims. So we are moving out of this area, further out. Because literally there is a threat to their security. So, I mean, how can you justify a situation in Berlin, in the center of Germany, in what is the capital of Germany, where people have to feel threatened from being in certain areas that, as you actually mentioned yourself, people are, it is true, people are fearing that the security is still there in some areas where prevalently there is German living. There is for sure security because Berlin was never an unsafe place. But on the other side, then you have these increasingly Muslim areas that are starting to become a little bit of a threat, and people are a little bit wary. This is what I sensed.
You know something? As I see millions and millions of illegal immigrants pouring into Europe, including Italy, and the Pope supporting this, I look back to you talking to me over a decade ago when you were in Norway, watching this unfold and warning people that this is going to be a huge problem if migration isn't controlled. And you had a personal experience with radical Islam there. Tell us back in Norway what was going on. And there's a huge story now about what's really happening in Sweden and how...
they modified really what the fake news, the alternative media was true, but the fake news, which is basically the mainstream media, has distorted the concept that Trump wanted to put through, which was basically reporting on what is happening in Sweden, where women get raped every day and where nothing is done, where people are living in areas increasingly under Muslim control, where the Sharia law is applied even in Swedish territory, just as it is in Norway. In Norway, already a decade ago, there were certain areas, let's say Greenland, in Oslo, that were already controlled by Muslims. But there were also areas where, for the first time in my life, I saw in Europe the use of burqa, which you could only find in England, because only in England they let the Muslims use the burqa in areas like Edgware Road in London and so on. It was sad to see that nobody was doing anything, and I think that the lack of integration of these people on the long run will bring to civil unrest, like it's happening in Sweden, where certain areas are off limits for the police, just as in Germany.
Exactly. Now tell us, back in Norway over a decade ago, you got pretty good indoctrination into how moderate Islam poses, radical Islam poses as moderate Islam, and you got caught up in it.
But it's not really any moderate or radical. There is an Islam which is radical in its ideal, because you just need to read the Quran to understand how radical the ideas are of this belief system, and then the fact that they are all one thing in common, and that is that even if they camouflage as moderates, in the end they come up as fundamentalists because they want to install the belief in the Sharia law in every country they live in. The Sharia police in fluorescent on a fluorescent jacket written in Germany for this supposed Islamic justice arriving in Europe has definitely made everybody wary of what is happening. I mean, 11 people have been now arrested in Germany for this Sharia police thing. I hope it doesn't repeat itself. And what the Süddeutsche Zeitung, the Süddeutsche Zeitung is the main newspaper in Germany. They interviewed one of their Sharia police members that said that we managed to help the dear brothers and sisters get away from alcohol, from sinner way of life, immoral way of life, sinner way of dressing, and from the inferno of the discotheques. Now, the discotheques and the locali notturni, meaning the actual clubs, are at the moment the main, I repeat, the main target of these people. So I'm really wary about going back to Berlin if they don't sort out their security in clubs, because what I saw in Berlin is a million miles, light years away from what is already in place in England for the last 15 years. In the last 15 years in England, since 9/11, you can't really go inside the club without a proper security screening, which is more or less what you get at an airport. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Berlin, there was not even a security. There was basically some probably plainclothes policemen posing, I'm pretty sure of that, but everything was really left more or less in the hands of these Nazis who are in charge of the security of these clubs. That is what I sensed. Okay, the Nazis can be very clever, I guess, in detecting if there is a threat, but I don't think they are as clever as they think they are. Because, for example, this Muslim that approached us in the club wasn't really looking like a Muslim. He was a Moroccan guy, but he had white, pale skin, maybe a complex of hair which was actually more tending on the light brown. So he could have been a German guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this means that they are very easy to camouflage after in these clubs. And because that is their main target, and because now at the moment, Berlin, in the last 10 years, maybe you don't know this because in America probably is one of the things you follow least in Europe, the nightlife. But Berlin has a little bit taken the place of London in the last 10 years. Because they made it the center of all the club industry, of all the music industry, and there is, for example, 500 record shops in Berlin, which is quite incredible, because the records, I'm talking about vinyl, I'm not talking about CDs here. So there is very much an interest in what music used to be represented with vinyl. There's a culture. You have to understand that Berlin doesn't really have, culturally speaking, maybe anything incredible to offer like we have in Rome, like, I don't know, the Colosseum, the Vatican, or a million other things that, we have in Rome thrown everywhere. The Foro Italico, we have so many things in Italy. In Berlin, they really have very little to offer for a tourist. So in the last 10 years, they have focused a lot on promoting, the last 15 years, let's say, but in the last 10 years, it gave great results. They have built an empire of clubs, that are very successful and that go on basically non-stop from Friday to Monday morning. They don't even close.
Wow.
And I'm very afraid because what happened in the gay club in Florida was a sign that we should follow and we should understand. Now, don't you think, Greg, what happened in Florida was very bad, was tremendous, it was a tragedy.
Yeah, of course, what I'm thinking was that, well, I've read much about what's going on in Europe, and I think ISIS's first target is Europe, and secondarily it's going to happen here in America. Now, we've talked much about the Jesuits, but we see, I see a Jesuit controlling the Vatican as the Pope. We have a new Jesuit general who came in October, I believe. And there's a couple others floating around like Kolvenbach, and then we got Adolfo Nicholas. Now we got this new Jesuit.
The thing is this, you have to understand, Greg. While I was in Berlin, I met by chance downstairs the Steinmaster, the new foreign minister who was there, but the rest of the team of Angela Merkel was in Munich, because in Munich from Friday to Sunday there was a very important security conference regarding NATO. Now,
right.
Mike Pence arrived there representing basically Donald J. Trump, and he actually brought some results in the whole of the meetings that he had, because there was also Lavrov there, which is his counterpart for Russia, and Lavrov talked very clearly about a post-Western world order, so a post-New World Order, not led anymore by the traditional countries, America, of course, Israel in first place, but in Great Britain, these are, we know historically, the leading countries. But Mike Pence was also very assertive in saying to the rest of the NATO allies that within the end of the year, they need to also regularize their position when it comes down to paying their part in the military asset of NATO. Because what Donald J. Trump stated during the electoral campaign needs to have some kind of codification in a law that probably diminishes what America is giving money-wise to NATO, which is a very big sum of money.
Yeah, they estimate it's about 75% of costs are picked up by the United States. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the military-industrial complex now, with Donald J. Trump, is redesigning their own priorities. So we have to see how these things will function, but Mike Pence was very assertive in wanting to get his allies to take this thing seriously. It's not anymore only the U.S. Paying for this whole Atlantic Treaty. Also because the thing is this, NATO, functions for all these nations that now are not being in any way loyal to the President of the United States, because most of the nations of NATO at the moment are in the hands of people loyal to George Soros, to the liberal agenda, to the Jesuits.
Wow.
The Jesuits are in charge of the European Union. This is historical. We made many episodes, me and you, we talked about the Treaty of Rome, how it came in place, how this all started in Rome because also of the closeness to the Vatican, to the general of the Jesuits. We also in private, before we started the show, talked about the new general of the Jesuits, the from Venezuela, who is a friend of Pope Francis, and who of course is part of this liberal agenda, because nobody was really expecting in the Vatican the arrival of Donald J. Trump. Francesca Immacolata Ciacchi was the one who was arrested, the one of the two people you remember for WikiLeaks 2. She now came out with a book in Italy, where she actually stated in this book that nobody in the Vatican believed in the election of Trump. And for this reason, they already had prepared even official things that were addressed to Hillary for her presidency, to compliment her and everything else. So it caught them by a real surprise. And that means that the reaction has been initially of uncertainty. And you also know what's happening with the Cardinal Burke, which has been sent now in an island to investigate pedophilia, like he's some kind of investigator out of a movie.
You know something, Leo? We got to take a break here, so I want to get back and talk about Cardinal Burke, his connection to the Trump organization, because there is a lot going on in the Vatican, as you mentioned the last time you were on, of the traditionalists fighting the liberal Francis, and what that may turn out to be is basically his resignation. So I want to get some inside information from you, and we'll do that in the second half hour. My guest is Leo Zagami, and Leo was just in Berlin, and he's back in Rome, back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. you will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The book of Revelation says, "The spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ." This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, we're back with Leo Zagami from Rome, and we're talking about, Leo, the last time you came on the show, you mentioned that there was a huge protest in Rome that wasn't covered here at all, and there were all these signs being put up denouncing Pope Francis. Can you get back to that? And you said Cardinal Burke was behind that, and I found out an interesting fact that during the campaign of Trump, Steve Bannon, one of his top aides, actually came to Rome and met with Burke. And that shows me that the Trump administration really doesn't appreciate the Pope getting involved in our immigration affairs, for one, as well as other things. So update us on what's going on between Cardinal Burke, this protest against Francis, and is he in jeopardy of losing his position there? Go ahead.
Well, we know that last year, at the end of last year, Cardinal Burke attempted with a group of cardinals to move heavy criticism also officially towards Pope Francis. We know that Pope Francis made also a strong move to limit the sovereignty of the Knights of Malta and to attack them because they were supporting Burke and Donald Trump in what is the traditionalist movement within the Vatican that is very close to the old ideals of Cardinal Lefebvre, and it's really closer to what Catholicism should be before this Second Vatican Council that destroyed this faith, bringing it right in the hands of the mondialists and of a certain kind of Freemasonry to then manipulate this in a one-world religion, as we said many times in the past. Cardinal Burke, though, because he's such a big threat, and because also he's a friend of Bannon, Bannon, as we know, is the advisor for Donald J. Trump, and Bannon is a person that knows Cardinal Burke since the old days, since the mid-2000s when he met him in Rome during the elections of Cardinal Ratzinger to Pope Benedict XVI, and then they became friends, and Cardinal Burke is a little bit the spiritual advisor of the White House in his secretive way, but also is a guy who is the patron and should be the spiritual patron of the Knights of Malta. So that now have been limited a little bit by this investigation, which has been moved in the last couple of months by the Pope with taking advantage of the errors of some of the Knights of Malta hierarchy, and maybe at that point also Cardinal Burke probably underestimated the power of reaction of this Pope, because now he's been sent in a far remote island. I mean, it's like a movie. Cardinal Burke moves this war against Pope Francis, and the reaction is that Cardinal Burke gets basically position as an investigative kind of figure for the Vatican in this alleged sex abuse case that is supposedly taking place in a remote island in the Pacific, the island of Guam. I understand that this is a case of pedophilia in the island of Guam, but I can't be serious, guys, because the thing is, for one case of pedophilia in the island of Guam, we have 1 million cases in the Vatican itself, which is a small state which has so much corruption in pedophilia, which compared to what's going on for as bad as it can be in a remote island, I think that what Pope Francis is doing is simply saying to Cardinal Burke, okay, now I send you very far away, hopefully you will not even come back from there. You know, that is the kind of thing, you know. He can't ask Burke to leave his position as a patron, spiritual advisor of the Knights of Malta, so he just sends him on this mission to investigate for Pope Francis, a sensitive mission halfway around the world. Now, I mean, it sounds really incredible, but this is what is happening. And Burke, who is, as we know, an American, would be investigating this sexually abused, of course, these kids were sexually abused by somebody in the hierarchy of the Vatican who's very much high up there. And of course, it's not uncommon for cardinals to become a part of this kind that canonical trial later on. But why choose Cardinal Burke when you have a bunch of other cardinals who might, do the job even better because they have more time? I mean, Burke at the same is still, as I said, the patron for the Knights of Malta religious order. He should be focusing on what is going on in the Knights of Malta. Instead, the Pope has already nominated another guy from his entourage to go and preside over the Knights of Malta, something that is unprecedented in history, because you see, the Knights are presided in the past by council of aristocrats that would have never allowed the papacy to invade on the politics of a military order, because that's what the Knights of Malta are. I think that this is happening because, of course, the Jesuits want to take complete control of the Knights of Malta after they showed their support towards Donald J. Trump. And Cardinal Burke is being, in a way, punished by giving him this sensitive investigation that might be, of course, very important also because there is a pedophilia. But how much pedophilia do we have in the Vatican? Not in the Pacific Island in the middle of nowhere, but here in Europe or in America. How much pedophilia?
I know what you mean. I got a number of questions. And I want to get your...
How many altar boys can they be? I mean, here we are talking about a former altar boy in an island of Guam.
Exactly.
Who is being sexually abused by a Puron, like the Pacific Daily News reported. And of course, it's. I don't understand why they have to be so obvious in obviously showing to the world that Pope Francis is a vindicative kind of character. He's not really the kind of character he wants to give out the impression to be on a public level, where the Jesuits are very good in constructing propaganda. And how much propaganda we have around Pope Francis? Really?
Exactly, and they just want to get rid of Burke. Whatever happened to that priest and the bestiality story that hit all the newsstands a month ago? Has that died down, or is the Vatican taking any responsibility for his actions?
No, it's not dying down. It's not dying down. It went on. It's still going on. Of course, there has been less and less, let's say, from the media interest on the case, because after it seems like probably the Vatican has a little bit, trying to keep the case now out of the public eye, to solve it in some way. I really...
Yeah, that story wasn't reported here, so refresh our memory on who this priest is, and what he was doing. It's really appalling. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, Don Contin is a priest in the province of Italy, in the north, in Parroquia of San Lazzaro in Padova. It's a rich place, as you know, Greg, a rich place in the north of Italy, so it's not like a poor town in the south of Italy. This is like a rich place in the industrial north, and Don Andrea Contini was the kind of figure that everybody looked upon, because he was he was known as a very respectful character, at least in the outside world, until one of his lovers came out with this incredible story. He was going to the police about what he was doing in reality in the church with all sorts of orgies. And from one witness, many witnesses started to appear. And then there was also the fact that there were other priests that were involved there watching or participating to these orgies. These orgies became more and more gruesome and described more in all the details, and they include bestialities with animals, immigrants, black immigrants who were used in these orgies, and sex toys kept under the altar. In the sacristy where the priest usually changes, there were all sorts of pornographic material. I mean, it is a scandal. It is completely immoral. But now, even the biggest scandal in the last 24, 48 hours in Italy that has taken the place of Don Contin's trivialities is a scandal that involves directly the government of Italy. Now, the government of Italy has a section called UNAR, which is basically a section dedicated to the opportunities for minorities, okay?
Right.
Now, UNAR has, without the majority of the people in government knowing, sponsored a whorehouse. So the government has sponsored a whorehouse, a gay whorehouse, not even a normal whorehouse. And this is basically, the scandal is hitting the government so hard that the director of UNAR, Francesco Spano, had to resign this morning. And but the details were brought out in a TV show a couple of nights ago, I think. And the reactions were very strong, because in this they went with hidden cameras, and there was this parties taking place in a dark room, and there was all kinds of prostitution, men, women, anything possible. It was just but a lot of homosexual, LGBT, they said it was involved. So, okay, there is minorities, but this was a whorehouse. People paid to get there, and they were getting money from the Italian government. And because of the government, people close to Matteo Renzi, very close to Matteo Renzi, and so because on top of Unar there is this Maria Elena Bosco, which is said to be the lover of Matteo Renzi. So, I mean, involving these people who are high in the Jesuit political world, there is the biggest scandal, because now this dark room with all this perversion going on, it's coming out a lot of truths that are linking also this, of course, in the end, when the Vatican priest will be caught being also present in this dark room, everything will be kept a little bit silent. Now, I'm pretty sure that they are there, because this is the kind of what they were doing in this place, though, was more or less what was happening with Don Contin.
Exactly.
Because Don Contin was getting paid. He wasn't doing it for free. He was actually getting his public to pay him. And to pay the priest for pimping the ladies. He had 5 lovers, Don Contin, and he pimped them around also.
Where is he now? Has he been arrested? Where's Contin? Where's Contin now?
I think he's under house arrest, but I'm not sure. I think he had to go to his parents, and he's under house arrest. But I think that Don Contin, it's quite incredible, all this story, because it demonstrates the first case recorded in modern history of a priest pimp. But remember that the money that was used to build the Sistine Chapel was actually money coming from the prostitutes. They had to pay a tax to the Vatican, which was in charge of the prostitutes, because that was Vatican soil at the time. It was Vatican territory before they became part of Italy.
Interesting.
So the whole of the Vatican was sponsored by whorehouses.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Whatever happened to? We know we talked in the past about Renzi. He's stepping down. What's going on there since then? Is Renzi still around? Is he still in control?
Renzi is fighting an internal war in the last few days in his own political party that wants to, he has resigned, of course. He's no more the secretary of the Democratic Party, which was his position. He's now, he wants to participate to the elections, and he's trying to monopolize the party. And actually, the latest news is that the Democratic Party in Italy might not exist anymore in a few weeks, because there is so many schisms that might take place in the next few weeks internal to the Democratic Party in Italy, that it's quite incredible if they will still exist in a month or two, because in Italy, when you start a schismatic operation, you know where you start, you don't know where you end. It's possible that from one schism generates 3 or 4. So Renzi wants to take control of what is left of this party, but the old communists, the real communists, the ones that used to be working with the Soviet Union back in the days, they don't want him to take the full control of the whole thing. So there is an internal war, and that's what's really happening in Italy. Politically speaking, even if I tell you the truth, most people couldn't care less what happened in the Democratic Party anymore, because it's a party that has opened the borders, has done everything wrong. Italy is more poor. Italy is invaded by immigrants. Italy is really in such a bad condition that I think Democratic Party, just like Berlusconi, are parties that are dying out. You asked me in the past about the 5-star movement. They seem to be on the rise pretty much everywhere. Politically speaking, that seems to be the future in Italy, at least. I don't see other subjects. We might attempt to have another kind of political subject on the way, a more Trumpian ideal, but it's very difficult to affirm everything in a system which is so rigged. This Italian system is more rigged than the American one, much more rigged.
Yeah, I know. You're heading up with about 3 or 4 other people, the Trump movement there. And you were behind his campaign, started the Trump movement on a website in Italy, Italians for Trump. How's that going now? What's the reaction of people to what Trump's doing here in America?
I think that from our inspiration, many political groups are emerging who are claiming in some way some kind of affinity or closeness to the Trump ideal. I think that we are the ones who have the more the legitimization by the fact that we have been the ones in charge of these events for the inauguration here in Italy. We, as you know, did 2 important events, and we are officially linked to Trump in various ways, and so we have some kind of recognition. Though, I mean, we are not a political party, so I think that from our inspiration, mostly they will inspire maybe the birth of other things that are more close to political parties. But it's very early to say if this will eventually manifest in a full-on political party, because the system is rigged, because doing political parties costs a lot of money.
Exactly.
And we don't have a new Berlusconi on the rise or somebody that has that kind of money to invest.
Well, you know, we got about 6 minutes, and I wanted to save some time because people always ask me after you come on the show, why should I read Leo's books? And I say this. I always said, you know, one of the things that Leo can really explain is his inside information of how Freemasonry really works, how it connects to the Vatican, and how that Freemasonry has kind of a schism in it itself. And you know very well there's a number of groups that don't agree. And I said that's one reason to get your book. So explain to people what you've been writing about and where they can get your books, because we never give you a plug, and I want to. Go ahead.
Well, my books have been published in Japan, then in Italy, and lately also in the US, thanks to CCC Publishing, which is a publishing house in Berkeley, San Francisco. And they are really taking care of putting out these books with great distribution. You find them both on Amazon, at Barnes & Nobles, or in your local book shops. It's a product which is done with a lot of work in the translation, which doesn't make it then a product of a translation, but really a new product, because I'm trying to really eliminate that translation process and making it more in the creative process of something even better than what I did before. So all the new editions I'm doing here for the US, it's really stuff which brings a lot of new material also on the table that I have not even published in Europe. So I have a new book soon out, volume 3, which really gives you the behind the scenes of what is happening right now, the importance of the figure of Donald J. Trump in this historical moment, the war between different parts of Freemasonry, Christian Freemasonry with Donald J. Trump, and then the liberal Freemasonry with George Soros. All this and more, the satanic battles, the satanic sects that fight each other in this context, the different knighthoods, the importance of the Knights of Malta, the figure of Cardinal Burke, everything and more in my new book, which is coming out in 1 month from now. And it's volume 3 of my confessions, espionage, Templars, and basically we go even into the Holy Grail, where finally I bring out some very interesting documentation, some very interesting facts regarding where the Holy Grail could be now and the importance of this artifact for today. So I mean, but the Holy Grail meaning something that is also linked to a saint like Padre Pio da Pietrelcina, so something that many people don't know about, that he was given this Holy Grail that went down to the time of St. Francis, when he himself, St. Francis, got the stigmata, just like Padre Pio. So I mean, mysteries linked to the Knights Templars, to the Freemasons and how the Freemasons then are linked to the Knights Templars, historically speaking, where these historical links are built and how they're built. Now there is a lot of history also in these books. Volume 1 of my Confessions already came out in the US, Volume 2 also. I had also another book of Pope Francis, The Last Pope, and I will have, after this third and last episode of my Confessions in the English language, another book, Invisible Master, coming out next year, which also will be a very interesting book touching on the topic of the invisible masters that are behind the scenes of the secret society, the secret chiefs, and their link to the unknown world that some of us call the alien world, the UFOs, but this and how they are realistically connected to certain secret societies, to the Jesuits, the involvement of the Jesuits in certain secret societies that were involved with Aleister Crowley. Well, I mean, I have a lot of interesting topics. You know, my books open a world to people who also want to study and research further, because from my book they can start then further research on these topics, thanks to all the reference that I methodically put page after page to make it even better for a reader to also see if I'm telling the truth or not, because the sources are very important, as you know, Greg, when you do journalism, no? Mm-hmm. You can have fake news as sources and your work is basically destroyed. So you tend to really give a lot of importance on the sources if they're not your own. Most of the time I have my own inside sources when it comes to the Vatican and everything connected to it. Sometimes, of course, I have to go for external sources for topics that might be more distant from me. But what I learned in many years is that we have to bring the word of the conspiracy theory, the so-called conspiracy theory, in the conspiracy reality, the reality of this conspiracy with facts and not fiction, so also the academic world can have a different perspective, and that maybe with people like David Icke becomes impossible, because they start on a tangent when talking about lizards, and then at that point, you get into the reptilian theory.
Hey, Leo, we have about 45 seconds. Where can people get your books?
Barnes & Nobles and on Amazon. That's the best choice, or at the website of CCC Publishing, which is my publishing company. The one that,
is that CC? That's C like just CC, the letter C?
CCC Publishing, yes. 3 C's, like Christ, the C of Christ. CCC Publishing, 3 times C. And it is really been a big, it's been a choice really to publish in the home of what was the enemy and is the enemy, which is the Church of Satan, the OTO, all these deviant currents, which is then manifested open in California, which has...
Leo, we're all out of time. I want to thank you for coming on. We'll have you on in a couple weeks. So see you later, and thanks again.
Thank you. God bless America.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the left-behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.